Have you ever been part of an online experience? If you have been or not, what do you think is needed to establish an online learning community? My understanding to the term community have changed over years. In the past it was necessarily place-based, for instance, the town or neighborhood I grew in. Then it emerged to be groups of people having a shared interest, such as, groups of new parents that support each other, or, groups that connect people of a certain profession. The advancement in technology have recontextualized our place-based communities into virtual communities that have spun off into many types with many varied attributes, such as community of practice, social community, or learning community. Now, communities are formed around issues of identity and shared values but, not necessarily place-based. Among all these variations, community has always been to me, a sense of belonging, a feeling that members matter to one another, and, that all needs will be met through commitment. In higher education, the online community has been increasingly explored. As more institutes move to offer asynchronous online programs, literature has identified the feeling of isolation, as a key factor associated with higher dropout rates, in any setting. Eastman made the point that online students' feelings of being alone can be overcome when students join together in a community. However, it is challenging to establish a sense of community in an online class. Yet, it can be achieved if educators and learners maintain their roles efficiently. We hear from researchers that educators need to pay attention to social presence when they design online programs. To do that, the educator should provide opportunities of interactions that focus on promoting human relationships, best described by Pauloff and Pratt as humanization of the non-human environment. Additionally, they need to set the climate that facilitates sharing and participation. For example, setting roles, rules, and guidelines for minimal participation. They also need to model behaviors conducive to building community such as responsiveness and respect, and hence, the students will learn by observing and copying such behaviors. Last, educators must encourage, acknowledge and reinforcing student contributions. For instance, sending an email complimenting a student participation at a given week. Clearly, an online learning community cannot be created by one person. Although the crucial role of educator, the learners also have a responsibility to make the community happen. And thus, they need to establish their presence, as well as, to be self-disciplined, and have self-initiative for participating, and to continually interact actively to posts. Each learner has the responsibility of establishing a safe human environment that synthesizes all variations in a respectful manner, as well as collaborating with others effectively. It isn't simply a matter of arbitrarily choosing to participate or not. Participation is essential if we as a community members are to learn of and from each other. The keys to the creation of an online learning community are simple: honesty, respect, openness, relevance, empowerment, and responsiveness. With these elements, members can feel safe in expressing themselves without fear of how they will be perceived. However, any social interaction involves making ourselves vulnerable, and hence, ethical, cultural, or gender implications can occur. If I'm talking how I would personally deal with such implications, I recommend setting boundaries around interactions, and guidelines, but not rules. Educating learners, and openly discussing these issues, are my two main means, and hence, I would start by creating etiquette based on essentials for establishing a healthy community. I would share the guidelines created and then, I would ask learners to comment and agree to them. This form a contract of learning among community members. I will educate learners about the essentials of online community, online professionalism, and the implications of inappropriate behavior on their digital footprint. I will specify how online learners should resolve conflicts that arise in the community, how violations will be handled, and what are the repercussions for offensive behaviors. In some cases, if the boundary has been significantly crossed, it is appropriate to delete inappropriate posts, and privately contact the learner who posted such content. If the action is repeated, I will remove the learner from the community, and communicate with the Institute's administration for further actions. Now, What are some of the best practices needed by educators to build an online community? Educators need to establish an early presence in the community, reinforce icebreakers and patterns of communication, and respond to learners' posts and concerns. Without that, learners will get impression that you are absent. Educators need to make room for informal discussions, and everyday life conversations, to enable the emergence of personal element. And hence, everyone can get to know one another. Educators have to set etiquette rules, define norms, and code of conduct. They need to discuss expectations for participation. The most important thing is to deal with anything that interfere with the cohesiveness of the community. Remember, trust can be undermined by a single comment. Embedding synchronous sessions can fulfill the missing human contact. These sessions must have flexible schedules, and carry out meaning and weight to attract learners. It is necessary to touch all students in the community. Acknowledge active learners' efforts with a congratulatory post, or a question to further the discussion. And reach out the silent learners. Sometimes a phone call or an email is all it takes to bring a learner back to the community. Giving frequent individual constructive feedbacks to each participant outlining what could be done to improve the quality of his or her posts would indeed promote rich discussions. It is important to be mindful about the activities integrated to build a community. Many educators rely only on discussion forums as a means to develop social interactions. Educators must integrate other methods as well. For example, they can use e-learning games such as Second Life, or ask learners to join professional communities of practices. Involving learners in collaborative projects can help to build stronger bonds with their classmates, and hence, elevate genuinely to the desired emotional sense of community. There are plenty of online platforms to choose from, but only a few are going to meet your needs to establish a community. Forums, blogs and social media are just a few. A key point to consider is that learners are comfortable to use the selected platform while it satisfies the community requirement. Thank you for watching this video.